This is a video of data collection for the 4.3 assignment by Leah Salvage, and in this PowerPoint we're going to be talking about the different methods of how to collect data. The first method I'm going to talk to you about is the experimental method, and this is the main method used by scientists, and it involves the testing of a hypothesis, and it's about the relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable. There are two types of experimental methods, and these are called lab and field. Lab is when everything in the test is controlled, as in both the independent variable and the dependent variable, and the field method is when the independent variable is manipulated by the dependent variable to see if the changes the results overall. For example, if we were testing a gymnast's speed in preparation for something such as a forward handspring in their tricks, you could get them to run on a treadmill in a controlled environment, and from this gather results, and the controlled environment would be something in a lab, so we could see the force of their feet and the speed that they're gaining. And then you could put them in a different environment and get them to run the same distance, but instead put them on a running track, so it'd be a different flooring, and put them with a crowd to see how the change of environment, which the dependent variable, affects their results, as the crowd would probably put more adrenaline into their body, for example. And because the experimental is objective, this is an advantage to the person conducting the experiment, because it means the test isn't biased at all, because no one is involved in the test apart from the participant, which would be a gymnast. And a disadvantage of the test would be that the protocol constantly changes because of the dependent variable, which makes it harder for data analysis, because it means that the test has to be the same every time, and because the test keeps changing, it would be harder for scientists to compare and contrast results. The next method I'm going to talk to you about is the case study, and this is a sort of qualitative data, and case study is the in-depth research used to see how one group, person or situation changes over time. And this study is mainly based on interviews, which means it's qualitative data, which I said earlier, because the data is written and isn't based solely on numerical data, so it handles stuff like words instead of numbers and tables and stuff like that. And an advantage of the case study method is that you as a conductor of the experiment gets to ask the individual questions face to face, which means you get a bigger understanding of what they're talking about, instead of just getting to write things down, or if you're observing, just having numbers. And this gives you a greater understanding of what they actually mean, which gives you a greater understanding of the whole experiment overall. However, a disadvantage is that the results can be very narrow, which means you couldn't then share them with a wider audience and use it for comparison. An example of this would be an interview would take place with a GB British gymnast, and just someone asks them about their training and their views on the way the training methods are introduced and how it affects them. So with this they can talk about their thoughts and feelings and how they view things. The next method is the cross-sectional method, and this method is a snapshot of a particular group, and the test is done at one specific time, which allows researchers to look at numerous things at any one time. And within this method there's absolutely no cause and effect, it's just a suggestion. An advantage of this method would be that it's quick and easy to gather large data. It's not nowhere near time consuming as some of the other methods, such as the case study, which is the one we were talking about before. But however, the disadvantage would be that it's difficult to find a variety of people who share a common factor. So for example, you could be comparing British gymnasts and their ability, but with the difference of their age. So you'd have to find gymnasts who were at a high level in the same sort of area in gymnastics. For example, if they were working on the beam, you'd have to find all your participants would have to be from that, but just with different age groups, which can be quite hard to find and very time consuming as well in that part. of the method. The next method is the longitudinal method, and this is observational research, so again it's qualitative data, and it's gathered for the same subjects over a long period of time, for example be months, decades, etc. And this method is mostly used to measure the risk factors of health benefits, which can both be seen as an advantage and a disadvantage. For example, the advantage would be that the risk and health factors and health benefits, would be looked at in depth and there'll be more understanding achieved. However, the disadvantage would be this is the only area it covers, and that's in a whole study, that's not a large area at all. So for example, you could observe the improvement of a gymnast over time and to look at the health benefits of their sport, and the risk factors could be like any obstacles such as injuries or anything like that that they've had to overcome in their career for the conductor to find a better understanding of this. And the last method I'm going to talk to you about is the correlational method, which is made up of paired data in some cases. And this means that determines whether or not two variables are correlated. It measures whether there's an increase or a decrease in one variable, whether there's an increase or decrease and whether one variable affects another. So for example, if you were measuring an increase in supplementation for young GB gymnasts, such as protein shakes or any tablets that would improve their or enhance their performance, and how those would specifically affect their performance in the same or different areas. And an advantage of this would be that you could easily see how the dependent variable changes results and how the performance is you can see at first hand how the performance is affected, which means it gives the conductor good data for them to handle, and it's good to compare and contrast. But however, there's a disadvantage. It means with correlational data there's a possibility of there being anomalies or no correlation at all. So it would mean that all the work gone into the preparation for the experiment or trying to gather the data, it would be time wasted, because they would have come out, if there was an anomaly which set the results a bit skew-if, then there would be no point in recording the data, as they would not be able to share it with other people if there was something wrong with the way they collected their data.